Hello and welcome back to the Red Path. Today we're going to have a little talk about how we can kind of prepare and get ourselves ready for 10th edition. So that'll be coming up right after this. Okay, so welcome back again. It is the 21st of May as of recording this video, probably about the 27th, 28th by the time it gets posted. And we are going to talk about 10th edition and dealing with the end of 9th edition. But before we get into that, I just want to read you something. Some very professional notes. Some very professional notes here. Okay, so bear with me here. It's June 2017. 8th edition has dropped. We have an index. Every army has an index. Everyone has rules at the same time. Every faction in the game has something to play with. It's a wonderful time, unless you're playing against Eldar and their multiple flyers or whatever other bullshit, Malefic Lords and Demon Prince spam and all that stuff. Nevertheless, it was a great time. It was the best of times. A few months later, in August 2017, Chaos Space Marines received their Codex, the fabled, vaunted Chaos Space Marine 8th edition Codex, which stuck with us for several years, as you will see. Fast forward a couple of years to April 2019, Vigilus Ablaze is released, and we get our specialist detachments. This was the few months to perhaps six to 9 months, I think it was, of 6-inch charges with our Warp Talons from Deep Strike, and a few other things like the Greater Brass Scorpion, or not the Brass Scorpion, the Khitan Ravager advancing and charging, and things like that. Almost at the same time, a month previous in March, the Chaos Space Marine 2.0 book dropped, and if anyone played that and remembers that, it was an absolute joke. It was exactly the same book. It just had, I think, 3 additional data sheets. Had Abaddon in there, the New Obliterator data sheet potentially, and the Dark Apostle, something like that. It was a very big joke, one of many. And then a few months after that, in November 2019, Faith and Fury from the Psychic Awakening series came out, and this was basically a new codex for us. It gave us significant rules. It's where we got Apoplectic Frenzy and our cool stratagems and all that. That's basically the foundation of what World Eaters were up until our 9th edition codex. Going forward about a year and a half to July 2021, 2020 was obviously a pretty barren year for rules, especially for Chaos, COVID and all that stuff. But in July 2021, the Book of Fire, one of the Caradon books, I don't know if it's Fire or Rust, one of them came out with our new rules, which were exactly the same, except for one very minor change, I believe, to a stratagem. But technically, it was the latest version of our rules, which if we were playing, the way it's supposed to be played, we would own that book. And I bet there's about 3 people in the world who own the book. Skipping forward another year to June 2022, much more recent in our memory here, much fonder times perhaps, because that was when we got the World Eaters Index. And for approximately 1 month, we played with our 8th edition Codex, plus the 9th edition Index rules from White Dwarf, and it was absolute mayhem because nothing really worked. Skipping forward another month to July 2022, we got the Chaos Space Marine 9th edition book. And this was kind of, this was okay. A lot of people really liked this. I enjoyed it, I just wasn't very good with it. But yeah, so then we got the Chaos Space Marines rules, and we basically sat our White Dwarf on top of that and used what we could from the Codex. Then in February of 2023, just a few short months ago, we finally got our World Eaters 9th edition Codex. Wonderful. There was much rejoicing. Everyone who follows this channel was obviously very happy because World Eaters, yay. However, in probably June, which is about a month away, because it's expected late June of this year, 2023, we will get 10th edition and our new indexes, which will make for, if I've done my math right, the seventh rules change for World Eaters players since June 2017. That's our Index in 8th edition. Then that is the Chaos Space Marine 8th edition. Then Vigilus Ablaze. Then Faith and Fury. Then the World Eaters Index with 8th edition. Then the World Eaters Index with Chaos Space Marines Codex. Then, the 7th would be our actual Codex. And then the 8th change will be the new Index. So that is the 8th set of rules we will be learning in approximately 5 years. But whatever. I'm not here to throw salt on it. It's very frustrating and very expensive. And it does kind of feel bad, the amount of crap we have to buy. And especially these last few months with CSM getting a very late release in the edition anyway for such a major army, relatively speaking anyway. And then for us to get a codex for like 3 months, it's a bit cringy. But it is what it is. You know, we're all going to buy the new stuff anyway, so we're not going to dwell on the negatives. What I do want to talk about is a couple of things I'm perhaps feeling, and maybe many of you are as well. And then diving into kind of how we can prep and be ready for 10th edition in about a month's time. So some things I've been dealing with regards to the hobby, with regards to 40k. This isn't some big important life lesson thing. It's kind of like fatigue and indifference is how I would summarize it in a couple of words. Fatigue in that just kind of going off of that list is like just the endless changing, the endless having to develop my playstyle and having to learn new things, and just kind of burnt out on it. I've just about had enough of constantly having to learn a new rule set and to just be able to grasp how to play with it, and then for it to be ripped away and it's something new. So yeah, that's kind of like a fatigue with the game in a way. And then indifference, and that's a more local thing, a much more immediate thing, is I just can't be bothered to play 9th edition right now. We've got like I say, about a month, and I'm probably not going to play a game. Maybe a friendly game or two here or there if I absolutely have nothing else going on, but I just can't be bothered. I know that sounds weird, but I had an RTT a couple of weekends ago. It was super fun, but I was kind of glad for it to be done because I just didn't want to schedule anything else for the remainder of 9th edition. I'm super excited for 10th edition, which sounds weird considering I was just talking about being fatigued with rules changes and things, but it's more about, I think, highlighted by the recent last 6 months to a year, Chaos Space Marines, the Index, the Codex, and then amazingly there's a new edition, which we could have seen coming, and it's been rumoured for a while, but it's still frustrating to get a Codex right at the end and not really get to do much with it. So that's where the fatigue is, and the indifference is I just want the new rules. I want 10th edition, I want indexes, I want everyone relatively balanced. We know there's going to be some bullshit to start with, and that's fine. We'll just deal with that like we do everything else. There's always bullshit in the meta, but everyone will be sort of set back to the starting line, I think, is the important thing. Everyone's going to be learning the new rules. You're going to go to RTTs and your local gaming store and maybe even GTs, and you're going to hold on a minute, that's not how that works anymore. Oh, I'm sorry, man, I was playing it with 9th edition in my... I know I'm going to mess up piling and consolidates on my charges for a while. It's going to be embarrassing, but we know that's going to happen. But it's an exciting time. It's a time where we can all learn new things and sort of grow in the hobby together, because there's going to be a huge influx of new players, people excited to join in, and we can use that to grow the hobby as a whole. But alongside that, in this next month or so, whilst we're waiting potentially for the new edition, for something to do, I'm really going to try where, surprisingly, I've kind of booked up for the next month or so, but where I do have time, instead of playing, late at night on a Saturday when I've got nothing else to do because I kind of work night shift and my family will be asleep, I'd normally get a game in. I might just do some hobby. I've got some gaps in my army I want to sort of fill up. Some stuff I maybe need to touch up paint-wise, or I need to finally put my Scorpion together and things like that. There's a lot of hobby I want to catch up on. I do recommend this would be the perfect time for you to make a dent in your pile of shame. And I do have some units in mind I think you could focus on. We'll touch on that at the end though. Another thing, if you're still wanting to play games, but maybe not competitively, or if you're a competitive player, but you haven't got the impetus to actually play competitive, you don't want to go to events right now, but you still want to throw some dice. This is the perfect time to try out the meme lists, right? This is the perfect time to get some narrative going on, or to take up Crusade or continue Crusade, because Crusade's going to carry over. It's going to evolve and change a little bit, but as I understand it, your stats and stuff will carry over into the new edition. Maybe try an Apocalypse game, or check out Kill Team or something. If you want to play, now's the perfect time to pivot to something else, and just keep it all fresh, and get your fun that way. This is more from the perspective of someone like myself who's generally a competitive player, or someone who plays competitively, put it like that. Alright, so let's talk about what I have expectations wise for World Eaters coming into 10th edition. So one thing, there's a few things we know, and then there's a lot of things we don't know, obviously. One of the things we know, or I say no, we can be 99% sure of, is our unit roster in the index that we're going to get in about a month's time will be functionally the same as what we have right now. Berserkers, Avocado Lord, 8-bound, Exalted 8-bound, and so on. Some of the units, such as the Predator Tank, Hellbrew, anything that carries over with CSM, could potentially be dropped. I don't think it will be, not for our index, but it could be. But I very much doubt it, because we have such a limited roster. So, if you're really wanting to play or continue playing World Eaters in 10th edition, you're going to want to make sure you've got Berserkers. I would recommend having 30 Berserkers. This isn't from some insider knowledge of, Berserkers are amazing. Berserkers are always going to be a mainstay of World Eaters. Sometimes you may run 5 or 10. Sometimes you may want to run 60 of them. That's going to always change as the meta changes, as the rules change. But having them, if you've got nothing to do right now and you want to do some hobby, get those Berserkers painted. They're going to pay you dividends in the future. Similarly, anything like 8-bound, Angron, Invocatus, getting a Lord on Juggernaut painted as well, Demon Prince, these kinds of things, I would very strongly recommend getting them painted or up to tabletop standard, or even just put together and built and primed or something like that. Because you're going to want to use them at some point in the next edition, and now is the time to get them done if you're just not planning on playing many games in the near future. I would also recommend, and this is a bit more tentative, but I'd say we're in the 80% certainty range, things like Rhinos and the Drill. These are dedicated transports, and if we do get access to a unit with the Scout move, as Dara talked about in the video last weekend, anything with the Scout move going inside a transport is going to be bonkers. We don't know how it will quite interact. Perhaps Jackals could get Scout move, we don't know. But Rhinos are, again, kind of second only to Berserkers as a very World Eaters-y unit. It's fast, it's cheap, and it gets us into combat, and it does what we need it to do. It does a lot of stuff for us. With Overwatch being very much bigger in this edition, I can see Rhinos being even more important. Drills are just, what we how we feel about drills on this channel. But in addition to that, Land Raiders, Assault Ramp will probably make Land Raiders very good for us, but it's going to come down to points. I could see them being overcosted at first, which would surprise me because they've been overcosted for about 5 years. You would think GW would be, it's time to give Land Raiders a day in the sun. This might be the time. If you've got access to one, or if you can get access to one via eBay or any other means you can, I'd recommend getting a Land Raider. It's a cool ass model anyway. I mean, I know this is, you shouldn't buy things that you don't know if the rules are good or whatever. Even if World Eaters do somehow lose access to Land Raiders, which would surprise the shit out of me, it's you're never going to have a problem selling a Land Raider. There'll always be a market for Land Raiders, even if they go to Legends. People want Land Raiders because they're just, it's one of the most 40k things, up with like Terminators. It's absolutely iconic. So I definitely recommend getting you a Land Raider, a Chaos Space Marine Land Raider, throwing some skulls and some spikes and chains on there, getting it really goried up would be awesome. And I would also recommend, and this is a bit of a cheap move here. This is a bit cheesy. We can be fairly sure, and this is, I would say, in the 75% safety margin here, that we're going to get Berserkers on Juggernauts, right? Well, you know, Chaos Demons, Khorne Demons have the Juggernaut Cavalry, and Age of Sigmar has Blood Crushers, I think they're called, or something. I don't know all the names. Basically, Juggernauts already exist, and you can either get the Fantasy riding version or the Khorne Demon riding version. And I've just been looking, and you can get them pretty damn cheap on eBay. Picking up 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of these models on the cheap, while they're not super good in the 40k meta, because no one's running them competitively in 40k for Khorne Demons. Well, not very often anyway, and I have no idea how good they are, or if they are any good at all in AOS, but they are quite cheap on eBay right now. You could get them built and painted, just the just the Juggernaut itself. Maybe get the legs on there, and then when the full models come out, we'll know what weapons options to give them, and you just throw a Berserker's torso on top or something. There'll be ways of kit bashing that. That would be my pro tip. This has been talked about by other people, I'm sure. I know it's been mentioned in our Discord, but it'd be a good way to prepare and get ready, because we're probably about a year out from the next codex, and I don't see us getting any models released before then, unless we're very lucky. But jumping on that train now, because if Blood Crushers or whatever Juggernauts become super good for Khorne Demons, their prices are going to go up and they're going to become very scarce. So jump on it now before they all run out, because I got a feeling we're going to get them. There's been enough rumours. There's the lore. We're getting Juggernaut Cavalry, and if you want a head start, go ahead and get the Juggernauts. You can get them built and painted, just ready for the guys to sit on top, and you'll be there day one with your beautifully painted Juggernaut Berserkers and just be the boss of the local scene. Okay, anyway, rambled on a bit much there. So I'm going to wrap this one up here. I know it started off a little bit negatively, a little bit sarcastic, going over all the addition changes we've had to deal with and talking about being a bit indifferent to the game right now. I do want to, emphasize I am very positive about this hobby. I mean, the things that it deserved to be positive about. There's a lot of good things in this game. I am incredibly excited for 10th edition. I know all of us at the Red Path are. Most everyone in our Discord is. It looks to be super fun. There's going to be things to iron out and problems to deal with. We'll get through it like we get through every other thing. But I just wanted to kind of ramble and sort of spill my thoughts on this kind of stuff, because it's also, we're in an awkward position once again of it being difficult to make content right now, because what's the point in me talking about tactics for World Eaters right now when we've got a brand new rule set coming around the corner in a few weeks? So I would say let's wait until 10th edition comes out and I'll march straight on, but who knows what's going to happen then, because every time I say that, there's like a few months later something new happens. But anyway, we'll get onto that. We'll deal with that when it comes to it. But for now, come and join us in the Discord, follow us on Instagram, Spotify, all that business, whatever. Till next time, folks, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill main.